It's Eddie's TV. Today we are doing the jungle.
Well done, how do you know? It says Adventure in the Jungle. It's a Little Men, Little Miss book that we got from...
McDonald's. We just went to it today and we bought lots more stuff.
What more stuff do we buy? You mean food?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Dizzy had gone for a walk in the woods with all his friends. But the further Mr. Dizzy led his friends into the woods, the more he became lost. And then he came to a fork in the path, and Mr. Dizzy could not remember which way to go. Should he take the left fork, or should he take the right one?
What does fork mean?
Forks like some choices in the road.
Oh.
Should he take the left one or the right one? But the right one might be the wrong one, so he turned left. He and his friends walked and walked, and then they walked some more, and the further they walked, the denser the woods became. "I don't think this is a woods any more," said Little Miss Wise. "I think it's a jungle." "What makes you think that?" asked Mr. Dizzy. "Because that's a gorilla," yelled Mr. Jelly, quivering in fright. "And there's an elephant," cried Little Miss Sunshine.
I have Little Miss Sunshine.
"And that's a tiger," pointed out Mr. Strong. "Oh dear," said Mr. Dizzy, "we're lost in the jungle." Suddenly there was an ear-splitting roar, and a tiger pounced. Mr. Strong leapt into its path, and the tiger harmlessly bounced off him. Running into Mr. Strong is like running into a brick wall. It hurts. Now, the jungle was so thick that the vines were tangled.
Why is crying?
It's because he's swinging through the vines. The jungle was so thick and the vines were so tangled that the roots grew so close together that it was difficult to make headway. So it took all of Mr. Strong's strength to forge a track through the jungle. And it was hot and it was steamy, and Mr. Dizzy's head was in a spin. They must find their way home before it got too dark and nightfall. Uh-oh, doesn't look like they did. And it was not very comfortable night. It was not a very comfortable night for Mr. Dizzy and his friends. It was so noisy that they did not sleep a wink. Even Mr. Noisy thought it was too noisy. The frogs croaked. The crickets buzzed.
Which
The
one's a
insects clicked. I don't know, some of these sets of eyes. The insects clicked and chirped, and the bats squeaked. Things were no better in the morning. In fact, they were decidedly worse. A huge snake had wrapped its enormous coils around everyone. Mr. Jelly let out a muffled shriek. Look at that.
Who's Mr. Jelly?
Mr. Jelly must be this dude here or this dude here.
I know Mr. Jelly's now.
Okay. It was a daydream. Sorry, it was... I'll tell you what, I'm tired tonight. It was Mr. Daydream who came to the rescue. He whistled softly, just like a flute, and slowly began to charm the snake until it was sleepy, relaxed, and... Did you leave me in front of my way?
Sure.
Until they were sleepy and relaxed, and everyone was able to escape from its embrace. "Everything is so big in the jungle," said Little Miss Tiny. "Even the butterflies are huge. But they are beautiful," added Little Miss Sunshine. "And look at the size of that flower," exclaimed Mr. Nosy. "It's gigantic. I wonder what it smells like." Mr. Nosy stuck his long nose inside the huge flower. "Ugh," he cries. "It stinks." "However are we going to get out of here?" sighed Mr. Nosy. Little Miss Somersault glanced over her head. "Look at the monkeys swinging through the trees," she said.
Little Miss Somersault.
Now that's the way to travel, and she was right. Swinging from vine to vine was much easier, although Mr. Tickle did not need the vines, because he's got super long arms, isn't he? They were travelling more quickly, but they were still lost. As the lost city that they stumbled across. The city was a maze of passageways and corridors and steps that led downstairs and stairs that led up with strange statues and eerie carvings. They were well and truly lost in the lost city that was lost deep in the jungle in the middle of nowhere.
Dad, what's he doing?
Which one? Him, Mr. Tickle. He looks like he's hanging down from somewhere.
Oh, he's not Mr. Tickle.
Amazing.
Mr. Tickle's green.
Mr. Tickle's not green, he's orange. In the middle of the lost city was a temple. If we climb up that temple, we might be able to see where we are, suggested Little Miss Wise. The view was magnificent from the top, and they could see for miles and miles and miles in all directions. They were not too far from a river that could lead them out of the jungle. On the riverbank they found some dugout canoes and began the journey home, paddling down river. There were a lot of logs on the river, observed Mr. Dizzy. Those are not logs, they're crocodiles, shrieked Mr. Jelly, quivering and wobbling. He quivered and wobbled so much that he overturned his canoe. Splash! Help! He shrieked as a large crocodile swam towards him with its mouth wide open, showing its crooked teeth. Luckily, Mr. Jelly had been sharing a canoe with Mr. Noisy. Mr. Noisy opened his mouth as wide as the crocodile's mouth and let out an ear-splitting shout. Arrgh! It was as loud as a train rolling through a tunnel, and it was as loud as a jumbo jet taking off. It was even as loud as a pneumatic drill in a telephone box. The crocodile leapt clear of the water in fright, turned its tail, and frantically trying to swim away from the terrifying noise. Mr. Noisy grinned a big grin, and he and Mr. Jelly climbed Mr. Jelly climbed back into the canoe. It was a long paddle, but they did find their way back home. It was much cooler at home and much quieter. The insects were smaller at home, and they were no longer tangled up in roots that could trip them up. And there were no dangerous animals at home that might eat them. What a relief, said Mr. Dizzy. And somewhere, a very long way away in the deep jungle, a number of wild animals also breathed a collective sigh of relief, because they didn't have the Mr. Men anymore.
Why were they sad?
And that was Mr. Men Jungle Adventure.
Yes. If you want it, go to McDonald's right now and you might get one.
Get a book, not a terrible toy.
No, the toy store's good.
Get a book, not an awesome toy. Toy's awesome?
Yeah. Get anything you want. If you want a book, you might get that book. But if you do, you're in luck, because we do have it's a book from McDonald's. You can see, look.
No, it's got the McDonald's logo on it. Sorry I didn't read it very clearly today.
Yeah.
I think I've got very tired.
Yeah, he's very tired.
Are you very tired?
No.
Are you very tired?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, well, we better go to bed now. So we'll say goodnight to everyone else.
Good
So I'm
night.
sure you're all tired too. And we'll see you next time.
If any of you called Vinny are watching, make sure he, if you know him, just let me know.
Vinny's Eddie's good friend. Right, off to bed now. Night night.
Night night. Bye bye.